Tonight on Bridge City News, this is National Holocaust Remembrance Day. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism still exists. We speak with a rabbi who was assaulted in front of his own synagogue right here in Lethbridge. A new report says 1 in 3 girls or women will be the victim of sexual violence. We hear from a guest speaker at SACPA today about what can be done to combat the problem. Things got a little heated during question period in Ottawa as Tory leader Andrew Scheer and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau battle over what needs to be done to help our canola farmers.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Good evening, thanks so much for joining us. More than 6 million European Jews died during the Holocaust. In total, the Nazis killed more than 17 million people during the Second World War. Today is National Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day to remember those who died senselessly and needlessly so many years ago. Recent reports say anti-Semitism rates are on the rise in Canada. We chatted with Lethbridge Rabbi Sidney Speakman, who says he was attacked 2 years ago right in front of a synagogue here in Lethbridge. We asked why this day means so much to him.
The first reason is my name. My uncle died in Germany fighting the Nazis during the Holocaust, and so I'm named after him. And then more personally, recently, 2 years ago, in front of our synagogue, 2 men jumped out of their truck in the midst of lots of anti-Semitic and obscene language, ended in leaving me with 2 black eyes. Something has to be done. Anti-Semitic incidents in Canada are on the rise to where last year 2,100 incidents were reported.
Lethbridge police say they are aware of the anti-Semitism that's on the rise in Canada, and they are doing their best to deal with the issue right here in southwestern Alberta.
Throughout Alberta and Canada, there definitely has been an increase in hate crimes, various hate crimes. I do sit on the Alberta Hate Crimes Committee, and vandalism, graffiti, that type of crime has been on the increase. Some religious groups have been targeted, LGBTQ, and some other groups as well. In Lethbridge here, we're actually fairly good. Our hate crime statistics haven't risen over the last 3 years.
Lockerman says if you're a witness to any type of hate crime, call 911 right away, or you can also report it online at stophateab.ca. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau marked Holocaust Remembrance Day at the Holy Blossom Temple in Toronto last night. He said remembering the Holocaust is all more important in light of the anti-Semitic shooting at a California synagogue last weekend.
We remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered by the Nazis, and we promise never again. This is all the more important in light of the horrific anti-Semitic shooting that took place in Poway, California, just this past weekend. On Shabbat, the last day of Passover, Jews were targeted yet again by a despicable act of hatred, an act of violence in a synagogue, a place of prayer and peace.
Premier Jason Kenney met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Ottawa today to discuss what can be done to help Alberta's struggling energy sector. Now, before the meeting, however, Kenney testified before a Senate committee studying the government's bill to rewrite the rules for environmental assessments of energy projects. Kenney says the bill is pushing thoughts of secession in Alberta. He said he will launch a constitutional challenge if the bill passes as is.
If this bill and Bill C-48 are adopted in anything like their current form, that this will be inflaming a growing national unity problem in Alberta and will be a body blow to our country's prosperity. The role of the Premier of Alberta is to protect our province's vital economic interests. And if we have other provinces that effectively are launching a trade war on our province, that are pretending that they can block the export of our resources and flagrantly violate the economic union of Canada, we cannot accept that without a response. I have always said to Albertans that I hope our new government can begin our relations with the current federal government in a diplomatic way, but ultimately we are prepared to use every tool in the legal and political toolbox to defend our vital economic interests.
Things got a little heated during question period as Conservative leader Andrew Scheer and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau sparred over what should be done to help canola producers in light of China's ban on importing the product.
The government of China is holding 2 Canadian nationals unlawfully. They have blocked Canadian exports, and this Prime Minister has done absolutely nothing to stand up for Canada. Now, he could show the government in China that there are consequences for pushing Canada around by pulling the funding from the Chinese-run Asian Infrastructure Bank. Will he do so, yes or no?
We were proud to announce that we are standing up for canola farmers this morning by moving forward with a maximum loan limit increased to $1 million for all farmers, and indeed for canola farmers, an interest-free loan increased to $500,000. On top of that, we stand up every day for the Canadians who are unjustly and arbitrarily detained in China. We know that engaging strongly and forcefully around the world is the way we're going to.
Why would we expect the government of China to take this Prime Minister seriously after showing such weakness on the world stage, after backing down to Donald Trump time and time again, after clowning around in India and angering our trade partners? Why won't this Prime Minister stand up for Canadian interests when it comes to the government of China?
Conservatives wanted us to capitulate to the Americans on NAFTA, and we got the right deal for Canadians.
Conservative foreign affairs critic Erin O'Toole says by failing to appoint an ambassador to China, or by not launching a World Trade Organization complaint against China, Trudeau makes Canada look weak on the world stage. He also says not enough is being done to help our canola farmers.
The deficit financing for farmer option today with the financial assistance is good. It's something we've been asking for months, but it's recognition of a stopgap measure that doesn't address the underlying market access issue, which is the Trudeau government has allowed our diplomatic situation with China to descend into chaos where we're not sure what commodity could be at risk next. So the Prime Minister needs to appoint an ambassador. We need to proceed with a WTO challenge. We should be looking at reciprocal measures like withdrawing from the Asian Infrastructure Bank. We should not be funding priorities of the Chinese state when the Chinese state is using our own citizens as hostages.
It is estimated that 1 in 3 women or girls and 1 in 6 men or boys will experience some form of sexual violence in their lifetime. This afternoon, the Southern Alberta Council of Public Affairs heard from YWCA CEO Christine Cassie about what's being done locally to combat this terrible issue.
The Chinook Sexual Assault Centre is the first standalone sexual assault centre that Lethbridge has had, so we're really proud to have that here. But that came together through a collective. So the Sexual Violence Action Committee is another group that gets together that we are members of that has been in existence for well over a decade now. That actually looks at the protocols and how we work together and what services are being done. So many services offer some component of sexual violence programming. The Domestic Violence Action Team as well, because we know that sexual violence is so much a part of domestic violence as well, that they do a lot of work in that area. So we actually have a richness of some programming and of some actions that are happening locally that need to continue.
Cassie also serves as the CEO for the Chinook Sexual Assault Centre, which opened its doors in January of this year. Streets Alive says there's an urgent need for food and clothing as their shelves are running bare here in Lethbridge.
So with the spring coming, we need layering clothes, so long sleeve shirts, hoodies, sweaters, that sort of thing. We're always in need of men's and women's regular size shoes, so 9 to 11 for men's, and then 6 to 8 for ladies. Socks and new underwear are always in need for our pin bank, and then of course rainproof, wet-proof wear is also in need. And our food bank, we need non-perishable food items. Our shelves are pretty darn empty right now, so canned pasta, canned soups, pretty much anything you could think of that you would need to eat on a regular basis, we need to eat on a regular basis. So pretty much we're empty. Our shelves are pretty empty right now. So coffee, sugar, spices, canned goods, we need it all.
Donations can be dropped off to Streets Alive directly, and the organization says any generosity is appreciated and will make a huge difference. More than 100 students in grades 6 through 8 from across Southern Alberta took part in the Let's Talk Science Challenge at the University of Lethbridge today. This year, the theme is space, and the organizers were very impressed with the students' interest in the subject.
The level of enthusiasm is just out of this world. It is really great response from the kids. The level of engagement that we've got, there's costumes, there's signs, some of them have cheers, and our MC Sam has been really getting them into this, and so that's been really great.
The Let's Talk Science Challenge was created by a group of students at the U of L who volunteer for the National Let's Talk Science program. It's the ride of a lifetime for a public health professor at the University of Lethbridge. Richard LaRouche is fulfilling his dream to ride across the country to raise awareness for Alzheimer's.
I've been doing bike touring for many years, and I've always wanted to cycle across Canada, but it was tough to find the time, and so this year I was able to make it all work, and so I'm going to ride from Lethbridge to St. John's, Newfoundland, and I'm going to fly to Victoria, BC, to cross BC to come back to Lethbridge, and I want to raise money for Alzheimer's because it's a disease that affects a lot of people in my family. It's also a disease that is becoming more and more common as the population is aging.
LaRouche says there's still plenty of research that needs to be done as there's currently no cure for the disease. He plans to leave on May 9th and take 2 months to complete his journey. Anxiety and depression are all too real for many Albertans. Dr. Sandra Wepler is a Christian psychotherapist and says she herself battled mental illness for over 30 years. Dr. Wepler even wrote a book about it entitled The Dubai Girl. I asked the doctor what important message she was trying to share.
It is important because people need to realize that sometimes they're struggling with depression, fear, anxiety. They're going through such hardships in life, yet there's a call on their life. Yet there is, I would say all hell is breaking loose, but yet God has a path and a purpose for them, and that they need to hang in there, and that they may think, why should I even write a book? Like, what is so special about me? But it's important because, people are going to hear your story and they're going to gain something from it, and their lives are going to be changed by your story.
Catch the full interview with Dr. Wepler discussing the best ways of dealing with anxiety and depression coming up in the second half of our show. Canadian celebrity chef Claire Tansey made a stop at the Lethbridge Public Library today. Tansey is the author of the cookbook Uncomplicated: Taking the Stress Out of Home Cooking. BCN's Loris Alexander spoke with the chef on what easy cooking really boils down to.
I trained as a chef. I grew up in the restaurant business, but really my heart is with home cooks. I think they're two really different crafts. I love and respect restaurant cuisine. I was a food critic for many years, but where I'm at now is empowering home cooks, and that's really what I consider myself.
Chef Claire Tansey is being modest. A former food director at Chatelaine, she now focuses on inspiring home cooks through her book, Uncomplicated: Taking the Stress Out of Home Cooking.
It came out in October last year, so a little over 6 months ago. And I'm here to talk about uncomplicated cooking, what that means, what my food philosophy is, and also how you sort of write a cookbook and how you take that journey from idea to actually holding a book in your hands.
The Lethbridge Public Library and the Joy of Cookbooks program is hosting Tansey this evening as she debunks cooking myths and talks about the joy of cooking.
This past year, we started a program called The Joy of Cookbooks, and it was really a way to bring people together that have a common interest in food. We have a really great cookbook collection here at the library, and it was a way to not only show off what we have, but again, just to bring people into the space with common interest.
Tansey says delicious food can be easy, and you can make do with what you have. No frills required.
I think that cooking doesn't have to be difficult to be delicious, and uncomplicated cooking is food that's easy to shop for, easy to prep. You don't need special ingredients, special techniques, or special kitchen equipment. It's just easy everyday home cooking that will make you happier and healthier in all aspects of your life, from your physical health, your mental health, your financial health, the health and well-being of your family, your community, and in fact, our planet.
To learn more about the art of painless cooking, visit clairetansey.com or lethlib.ca. For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman spoke with reporters after testifying before a special House of Commons committee examining sport-related concussions in Canada and what, if anything, the federal government should do about it.
As you now know, we were sued yesterday by Mrs. Ewan individually and on behalf of her husband's estate. I understand that there are some accusations that have been made about the diagnosis, and we'll be dealing with that in due course, because I think there are some allegations that have been made that have absolutely no support. We believe the lawsuit is without merit, as was the main concussion class action, and we'll deal with it appropriately.
A month and a half ago, we had an incident where a player was asked to man up and respect the code, and he got a concussion out of it. What can you do about that?
He didn't have to accept the challenge.
Is there a sense that this is good for business?
It's not a question of whether or not you analyze it as to whether it's good for business. It's the way the game is being played now. It's the way the game has evolved, and it's the way the players want the game played.
Authorities say a student with a gun and no apparent motive killed 2 people and wounded 4 others at the University of North Carolina. As we hear in this next report, the students are still in shock.
Weeks away from graduation, there isn't a feeling of celebration for Krista Dean, just shock.
There are parents that are never going to be able to hug their children ever again. And that's all I can think about.
She was in class Tuesday evening inside Kennedy Hall on the University of North Carolina's Charlotte campus, about to give her final research presentation.
Right before I got up, somebody yelled, "Shoot her!"
And then gunshots coming from down the hall, where police say 22-year-old Tristan Terrell, a former UNCC student, was firing inside a classroom. 2 students were killed and 4 others injured.
What you may not hear is the first and foremost hero, as far as I'm concerned, and his name is Riley Howell. He was probably the second fatality in this incident.
Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Chief Kerr Putney hailing a 21-year-old student as a hero. He says Riley Howell tackled the gunman, likely saving others.
But for his work, the assailant may not have been disarmed. Unfortunately, he gave his life in the process. But his sacrifice saved lives.
The UNCC police officers also being applauded for their swift actions.
I've been preparing for this for over 20 years. In my mind, I'm trying to get officers to prepare for it in their minds, what they would do. I'm very pleased to say I'm proud of myself and all the officers that responded to this scene.
While police don't believe Terrell was targeting a specific person, they do think he chose the building strategically. Now they're working to figure out why. And as they do, flags on campus hang low, mirroring the mood here.
My biggest fear was somebody's reality.
What was Dean's fear and panic yesterday, she says, has now turned into the guilt of a survivor. Sarah Blake Morgan, The Associated Press.
A baby sea lion that wandered onto a busy highway in San Francisco was rescued on Tuesday. The heroes, the local highway patrol, succeeded in getting the animal into a patrol car.
Essentially, when we got the call, I couldn't really believe there was a sea lion on the freeway. Usually we get, dogs, cats, things like that. But at first it was kind of like, oh, we'll see when we get there. But sure enough, when we got there, it was an actual sea lion.
We're very grateful to the California Highway Patrol for picking him up and bringing him here so we could take him in. And we're very grateful for the people who called us.
Raj, here we go.
So cute. A mainly cloudy and cooler day today. More moisture is in the forecast. I'll have a complete look at the weather picture in just a moment. We had lots of clouds again today. Tonight, a chance of showers developing with a low near 3 degrees. Tomorrow, chance of rain and a high near 13. The clouds should clear out on Saturday, but the temperature will drop down to 9. Sunday, a mixture of sun and cloud and a high near 14. Monday, a chance of flurries developing and a high of only 8. Tuesday, a mixture of sun and cloud with a high of 10. Wednesday, mainly cloudy with a high near 9 degrees. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 16 and an average low of 2. The highest temperature on this date was recorded in 1940 at 28 degrees, and the record low was a cool -11 in 1954. Sunrise was at 6:07, sunset at 8:49. Let's see how tomorrow's shaping up across the country. Victoria will be partly cloudy and 16, just a few clouds and 16 as well for Vancouver. A chance of snow mixed with rain for Calgary tomorrow and a high of only 4 degrees. A chance of snow and a high of 4 for Edmonton on Friday. Rain and 13 for Regina. A chance of showers and 7 for Saskatoon tomorrow. Thunder showers and 13 is on tap for Winnipeg. Toronto will also see rain and should get up to 16. Ottawa will have rain mixed with drizzle and a high near 11. Montreal will be mainly rainy and 9 degrees. In the Maritimes, Fredericton, New Brunswick will have rain and 12. Halifax, Nova Scotia will be mainly sunny and 14. Charlottetown, PEI will have a few clouds at 12. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect rain mixed with snow and a high near 4 degrees tomorrow. The Alberta Energy Regulator has a big mess on his hands after a Calgary oil and gas company walked away from its 4,700 wells across the province. Trident Exploration says it has ceased operations and terminated its workforce due to low natural gas prices and other issues. The regulator says it will ensure the public and environment are protected and will assess any high-risk sites to ensure there are no immediate risks. The AER says it will work to have the wells transferred to responsible operators, safely decommissioned, or as a last resort, transferred to the Orphan Well Association. The head of SNC-Lavalin says the company will wind down operations in 15 countries where it has subscale operations. Neil Bruce also said that the company will no longer bid on fixed-price contracts in the mining industry, as the Montreal-based giant reported a loss of $17.3 million in the last quarter. That compares to a profit of $78.1 million a year ago. Revenue declined from $2.43 billion to $2.36 billion. First quarter net earnings at Maple Leaf Foods were up close to 80% to $50.1 million, or 40 cents per diluted share. Sales were up 11% over a year ago to just over $907 million. On an adjusted basis, Maple Leaf says it earned 20 cents per share in the quarter. That is down from 29 cents a share a year ago. Now, here's a look at today's markets. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, Alberta Premier Jason Kenney met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Ottawa today to discuss what can be done to help Alberta's struggling energy sector. Before their meeting, however, Kenney testified before a Senate committee studying the government's bill to rewrite the rules for environmental assessments of energy projects. Kenney, a former federal Tory cabinet minister, calls the bill the No Pipelines Act and wants it scrapped. What can be done to help those dealing with anxiety and depression? Up next, we hear from Christian psychotherapist Dr. Sandra Wepler, who gives us her thoughts. But first, here's a look what's happening in and around your community.
Here is your Bridge City News community calendar. The annual Kids, Tots, and Babes Garage Sale is taking place Saturday, May 4th from 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. in the West Pavilion at Exhibition Park. Admission is $4 for adults. Come browse through dozens of tables full of new and used kids' clothing, toys, furniture, books, hair accessories, sporting goods, and more. If you'd like to rent a table, there is still room available. Email Sharon at totsgaragesale.com. Come for a theatrical experience to Jake's Gift, a moving story of a World War II veteran's reluctant return to Juno Beach on Saturday, May 4th at the Lethbridge Legion. This multi-award-winning play features the performance by its playwright, Julia Mackey. Tickets are $20 per person and are available at the Lethbridge Legion office. Doors open at 2 p.m. with the show beginning at 3. To learn more about this play, visit jakesgift.com. Lethbridge Bike Fest is a full month of exciting and informative events encouraging you to get out and ride. Taking place Friday, May 17th from 2 to 4 p.m. is the Bike Mechanic Workshop at the Crossings Branch Public Library in West Lethbridge. Have the helpful technicians from Ascent Cycle get your bike into tip-top riding shape for summer. For more information about this and other Bike Fest events, visit yqlbikefest.ca. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
Depression and anxiety are far too common today, but what are some of the solutions? To discuss this, I'm joined now by Dr. Sandra Wepler, Christian psychotherapist, ordained minister, producer of the Voice of Truth Prophetic TV, and she's also written the book called The Dubai Girl. Sandra, welcome to Bridge City News.
Thank you so much for having me, Hal. It's a pleasure and a real privilege and an honor.
Oh, you bet. Now, what is The Dubai Girl all about? Why don't you share with our viewers?
Yeah, the Dubai girl, came out of, a struggle, a real struggle with depression, anxiety, multiple panic attacks, and just freedom from walking into my destiny. It came out of a time where God was breaking me into and training me, into my destiny, essentially. It started, when I was in Dubai, and I was going into, I was just driving out, going into the main road, and my accelerator got stuck. And essentially, I was accelerating coming on to, the main road, which had about an 18-wheeler. So that was some generational stuff as well with fear, and that kind of broke up and took away my freedom. What I was before that and what I was after that, I struggled for 30 years. I've been a psychotherapist. If anyone heard what my private struggles were, they would have never believed me if I had to tell them that I was struggling with multiple panic attacks, couldn't stay home, alone, couldn't go out alone, couldn't drive in the car alone after that, lost my job, lost tons of weight, and life is never the same for a long time after that.
So as you were dealing with a lot of this anxiety, God told you to write the book?
I kind of moved to Canada, did my master's. And then, when I did got a scholarship to do my doctorate. When I finished my doctorate in 2013, the dean of the university said to me, "You should turn this into a book." What really got me going is when my father, Michael D'Souza, passed away in 2013. See, he had greatness in him. He had an amazing destiny. He came from a very small town in India called Goa, and he had so much of greatness in him. He was an amazing man. Brought his entire family to Dubai. Went to Dubai when he was 29 in 1956. So essentially, for me, the book came out when I lost my father, and I felt like I had to make a connection with God the Father. And I felt like I'm going to take my father's inheritance here, his legacy, and I'm going to be the front runner to move forward and break through whatever call was on my dad. I'm going to break through the generational stuff that was on our family. And so the book came out, and I started I started changing, I would say, massaging the book, and then the book came out recently on just a couple of weeks ago.
So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you were writing the book? And apparently one day everything changed you, and it was a certain plane ride that actually impacted your life in a big way?
Yes. Yeah. I think God was already had some plans and purposes for me. He had his hand over my life. And, the challenges I had in the book was, to try to finish it with a proper testimony, because I hadn't received complete freedom. So I was not going to, be able to put an end of victory in this book. So I left the book as, that this is God's faithful. And no matter what I'm going through and I'm still struggling, I want to say to you guys that God is faithful. And I closed the book with that. And then I said to the Lord, I said, what do I do, Lord, with this? Because I want this book to get out, but I haven't received complete freedom. So how do I go about this? And, and I didn't know that very, very shortly God had a plan for total and complete freedom. My husband was going on a conference, an office conference to San Antonio, Texas, last year, September. I did not want to get on the plane. I have never got on a plane by myself alone. I had to go wire Atlanta and then back wire Salt Lake City. So the long and short of it is, I did, and I knew that there's something was going to change. I really didn't know what. But the miracle and the supernatural event that took place was when we were taxiing in the plane, and I realized that I was all alone, and I'd left my brother and my husband, everybody back at the Toronto airport. And now I'm on a U.S. flight going into U.S. in a Canadian airline, and I'm completely having multiple panic attacks, can't even see straight, can't breathe, can't focus. Everything is coming back to me. And then, the two people sitting at the side of me knew they knew something was happening, but they were trying to console me, but it wasn't happening. So at the end of the day, the plane takes off. And as I reach up, as the plane takes off and, just above the clouds, I heard a very, very clear voice that I've heard before, 7 years before, when I had a fear of flying. I heard a very clear voice that said, "Sandra, this is your father. Look out, look out." And, the father's voice is so clear because through all of the symptoms that I was having and everything in my body was shutting down, that one word, "Sandra, I'm your father, look out," broke through all of the panic attacks, broke through the depressions and oppression and everything. And I looked out, and this supernatural, miraculous peace came over me. And from that day onwards, it has completely broken and completely left my life.
Now, what about the title, The Dubai Girl itself? Why is that title so important for you?
Yeah, well, good question. Thank you so much for asking me that. I was praying about it and asking the Lord, what should I name this book? Because it was all about, destiny. It's about, pointing to the Father's heart and things like that. But really, I said, Lord, I know there are a lot of people who talk about, purpose and plan and destiny and call. So I was really leaning in and saying, what should I name it? And the Father said, name it The Dubai Girl, because that is where I met you. That is where you started your journey. That is where I called you. And that is where I called your dad. That is your beginnings. You conceived there. And, and my destiny started in your life then. So that's why, I named it The Dubai Girl, because at heart, I'm still a Dubai girl.
Now, your book is a combination of your personal story and provides practical help for people needing to experience their own breakthrough. So why did you think this was such an important message to share?
Yeah, it is important because people need to realize that sometimes they're struggling with depression, fear, anxiety. They're going through such hardships in life, yet there's a call on their life. Yet there is, I would say all hell is breaking loose, but yet God has a path and a purpose for them. And that they need to hang in there, and that they may think, why should I even write a book? Like, what is so special about me? But it's important because, people are going to hear your story and they're going to gain something from it, and their lives are going to be changed by your story. And as for me, I written the book because the book is pointing out to the Father's heart. We talk about Jesus. We know he's compassionate. We talk about the Holy Spirit with power, but the Father is misunderstood many times. And so it became my mandate to talk about the Father's heart, and about identity, and about how we can be sons and daughters. And no matter what happens, when God gives us a promise, he's going to deliver on it, despite what we see in the natural.
So Sandra, how important is it really for us to know what our destiny is?
Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very, very important, because others we're living a life that is just, Monday to Friday, wake up, sleep, get up. There is, God has, before time, he says, in Romans 8:23, that I have, formed you and shaped you, and I have a purpose and plan for you even before the earth began. So he has a purpose and plan and a destiny for each one of us here. And despite what is happening, this is what I always say, despite what is happening, lean into it, glean from what is going on, don't give up. Because I had a struggle for 30 years. I had suicidal thoughts. I kept thinking that, how can God, tell me that he's going to send me to nations, that he's going to, do all of these wonderful things with me, but there's no proof of it in the natural. So I think it's very, very important, because God needs his people. He needs his agents here on earth to bring his kingdom from heaven here. And we are it.
Now, you say that mentors have been a key in your journey to experience your breakthrough and in the process of writing The Dubai Girl. How so?
Yeah, I've had some very key mentors. I want to mention that in the process of breaking through into your destiny, it's very, very important who you align with and who is in your corner. People like the one lady that actually, her name is Auntie Colleen White. I'd like to give her. She's passed away. I've known her for a very, very long time. She was instrumental in bringing me to Jesus. So she was the reflection of what it is like to be intimately in love with Jesus, and she showed me that. She didn't only walk it out, but she instilled that. And then there's Dr. Rhonda Thomas. He's the VP of the Canada Christian College, who consistently loved on me as a father, even after my own father passed away. There's Joan Hunter, there's Robert Hodgkin and Doug Addison, and these guys, in my time of breaking through, they have stood by me. They never once questioned what my destiny, what my call is, or who I am. I've pretty much have come out of left field, in the prophetic genre as well. So they have stood by me, they've loved on me, and they have believed in me and helped me to propel forward. So it's very important, to have good, authentic prophetic leaders or ministers in your corner when you're breaking through into your destiny.
So how can a person find the right individual to mentor him or her? And does that mentor necessarily have to be a believer?
Well, I do believe that it has to be a believer, and especially if you're in a prophetic realm, then have somebody in the prophetic realm, a leader there to mentor you. If you're in healing, then have somebody who's in healing. If you're in deliverance, then have somebody, because you're going to walk through some stuff which you're not going to be able to understand. There's going to be no bandwidth for what you're going to walk through. And so you need those generals, who are ahead of you in the game, who have had that walk to, to have those brainstorming sessions and to say, don't get worried, don't get freaked out. This is normal. And so it is very important to have, and the quality, there has to be, I believe that I picked and I asked my mentors because they were in the same prophetic realm as but they had, the Lord, the Holy Spirit showed me, He showed me that these are people of highest integrity. They're very authentic, and they have love. Love is the biggest component, wisdom, because they've already walked the journey ahead of me, and love. Yeah.
So what is one key message you really hope people take away after reading your book?
The one key message I really want to talk about today, is just the love of the Father. Pointing out to the love of the Father, because the Father is, he is passionately. I always say this. One moment in His presence changes everything, and that's what happened to me. So He is passionately, extravagantly, and intentionally loving us unconditionally all the time. So if we, we don't make Him, a source. We don't make Him a resource. We don't make Him a resource. Like an ATM machine. We get something from Him and then we're off on our way into our destiny. No, but we actually make Him the point of contact, the source. Because if we make Him the source, then we partner with Him and we do His work and His agenda on this earth, not ours. So that is the key thing. Understand your identity as a son and a daughter of the living God. And know that if you partner with Him as the source, then you are going to walk. And that the third thing I would say is just believe and trust. Because if He has said something, it may take 20 years, it may take 30 years like me, but He will come through.
So who do you hope really reads your book?
I'm hoping that, my book is for Christians, but it's for non-Christians as well. It's for those people who really want to understand, who is God? What is His character like? Why is He love? Why is He grace? Why is He all these different things? Why is God shouting from the top of the mountaintop about His love, about, identity, about what that has to do with, call and purpose? There might be a lot of people in the marketplace, and there may be a lot of people in the church, and there may be a lot of people in the secular, but this is definitely not only for Christians. This is for those people who are looking at, why am I here? And who am I? And what should I actually be doing here?
All good questions, absolutely. Where can people go to connect with you, to learn more about you and the book, The Dubai Girl?
Yeah, well, they can go on my website, Hal, which is www.sandrawepler.com. They can also go to the Dubai Girl website. And we have a special promotion. You know, I put it out on Facebook. And I said to them, my Facebook family and friends, I said to them, well, you know, I'm giving you something for free. And I really meant that, because a lot of people use some corny things, but I meant that. I worked on a lot of resources, so 3 resources that they will get for free, which I worked for over 2-3 months to put in their hands. They can go to the Dubai Girl, so www.thedubaigirl.com, and they can sign up for that. They get a wonderful devotion for 30 days that talks, that where the Father talks to them daily. They get 3 MP3s that talks about breakthrough, when I was breaking through, my personal breakthroughs. And they have another resource which will get them jump started, start to really focus and get them jump started into their destiny. And all of that can be found there. If they want to know more about me, they can go to Voice of Truth Prophetic TV International, where we're touching millions of people through Voice of Truth Prophetic TV. And they can also connect with us on all of our social media channels.
Dr. Sandra Wepler, author of The Dubai Girl, thanks a lot for joining me today from Kitchener, Ontario.
Thank you, Hal. Pleasure and honor.
The past couple of decades, it seems as though eating disorders have been on the rise. What causes an eating disorder? Is help readily available to help people get their lives back on track, leading a healthy lifestyle? Joining me now at the desk is Janet Innes, a mental health therapist with Alberta Health Services here in Lethbridge. Welcome to Bridge City News, Janet.
Thank you.
So are eating disorders really on the rise? How prominent are they today?
They're pretty prominent. I'd say over 1 million people in Canada meet the requirements for an eating disorder.
What causes a lot of eating disorders in young people today? Is it the stresses of maybe homework, social life, their family life, maybe their parents are stressing them out a little bit?
Yeah, stress can definitely be a contributing factor to eating disorders. Just dealing with overwhelming anxiety and emotion and the stressors of everyday life.
What are some of the symptoms? What should we really look out for as parents in case our daughter or son has an eating disorder?
Look for chronic dieting talk, fat talk, over-exercising, and even, youth who are combining foods in an unusual way.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about when your daughter comes up to you and says, okay, gluten-free, dairy-free, all of a sudden it's like putting all this restrictions on herself when it comes to her diet.
Right.
Is that another warning sign as well?
It certainly can be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not just females, but men can also have eating disorders as well, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Tell me a bit more about that.
Women and girls tend to ask for help more readily with eating disorders, and because of that, I think men and boys see it as more of a female problem, so they don't tend to ask for help, but it's definitely there.
Why is it more prominent when it comes to younger people as opposed to older people? Eating disorders, or do you see it as well in maybe seniors?
I do.
Right?
I do. Yes.
Okay.
I think actually eating disorders can affect anybody. Anybody is at risk for eating disorders.
So why would a senior, who's enjoyed food for maybe 70, 80 years, decide all of a sudden to put all the restrictions on their own diet?
Well, firstly, they may not have enjoyed food for that long. They may have had the eating disorder for many, many years and just been struggling with it. There's so many reasons, and it's so complex that I think it depends on the person and what they're going through and what's triggered it. It can be lots of different things.
So Janet, is a lot of it to do with self-love? You have to love yourself and accept your body type for who you really are?
Actually, that's part of it.
Okay.
There's something called set point weight, and that's the weight that our bodies reach. That's natural to our bodies, as natural as our shoe size or our height. And it's acceptance around that weight, right? So we might be our goal weight might be very different than what our set point weight is. And the set point weight is where our bodies function the best. So it's really having acceptance of that, I think.
Sometimes people look at the BMI as well, the body mass index. Like for
Yeah.
me, 6'4", it says I should be maybe 189 pounds. I'm like, I haven't been that since grade 8, in school.
Yeah.
So, different body types, I mean, you shouldn't really necessarily go by that one BMI chart, should you?
No. I think we have many determinants of health, such as blood pressure, our energy, our stamina. Those are determinants of health as well as weight. And weight is just a small indicator. So paying attention to these other determinants is really important.
Yeah, being heart healthy is very important, right? You can be a few
Yeah.
pounds overweight, but as long as you have a strong heart.
Right.
But even my doctor says it's good to have an extra 10 or 15 pounds if you have to go in for major surgery. You can afford to lose the weight. But if you've only got 5 or 6% body fat, you can't afford to lose that weight with major surgery.
Right, yes.
What's the difference now, Janet, between anorexia versus bulimia?
Well, somebody who has anorexia is more restrictive in their eating, an intense fear of gaining weight. Somebody who has bulimia uses eating as a way to cope with anxiety, depression, strong emotion, stressors. Yeah. So.
And do they bring the food back up, like bulimics, or?
Yes, that they can definitely have a way of purging, but so can people with anorexia. It's very complicated.
What are some other eating disorders as well, outside of those two? Those are the ones we hear mostly in the media, right?
Right. In some ways, there's as many eating disorders as there are people. Wow. So there's so many variations on eating disorders, and whether people restrict or purge, but then there's others as well. It's hard to answer.
What are some of the dangers when it comes to eating disorders and how it negatively impacts our health?
Yes. Yeah. Well, physical health, it can impact definitely our heart and our other organs.
You're a lot weaker, right?
Yeah. Your heart sometimes has to work a lot harder, but there's other areas that affect our health as well. Like, it's incredibly shaming to, people who have an eating disorder are intensely shameful about it, and that affects us socially because, we become more isolated and not wanting to reach out and talk about it. And yeah,
so is that key really then? If you feel that you have an eating disorder coming on, or you're wanting to take that path to reach out to maybe a family or friend or relative, and then maybe they can help lead you to a professional that can maybe help?
It is key. Yes, talking about it both will reduce the shame around it and as well help you get on the road to recovery.
How often is suicide attached to an eating disorder?
I think suicide is always a risk when it comes to a mental health diagnosis, mental health struggle. But with eating disorders, you are 12 times more likely to die. When we look at how it impacts your physical health, you're 12 times more likely to die because of that, right? Than other mental health illnesses. Not necessarily die by suicide, but die because it impacts your physical health.
Now, the media must play a major role as well. You look on television, you see people that have these super slim bodies, even the models, like Victoria's Secret's models, they look unhealthy, to be honest with you. They're, so is there like a negative stigma as well attached? That, maybe people already have a mindset like, I'm too fat already, compared to these airbrushed models, supermodels that we see on television or in magazines?
Right. Yeah, the biggest thing with media is, we can't really change it because it's been that way forever. And it probably is getting worse. So the biggest thing is media literacy. So helping people to understand, what are they selling? Why do they have that ad? Is that really how people look, or is that changed? Have they airbrushed it or changed it in some way? Right?
I like when I see plus size models. To me, they just look like normal people.
Yes.
They're not plus size at all, right?
No.
So it's interesting. What about some of these diet fad products that you see, like this new lollipop? It's an appetite suppressing lollipop that promises a flat tummy. What are your thoughts when you hear advertisements or see advertisements like that?
You know, there's always been those types of gimmicks, I would say. There's teas, there's candy, there's, you know, all kinds of things. But I think it's important to remember that those are very dangerous and they don't really work in the long term. We want a
long-term solution.
A long-term lifestyle that will carry us through our lives, right?
So who's really at the highest risk then of developing an eating disorder? We talked a little bit about young people, some seniors, but who else really? Maybe athletes?
Athletes are, sure. Maybe more in the sports such as ballet or gymnastics. But you know what, I think we all are. I think sometimes it can start with an innocent comment about your weight or shape that sets you off into a dangerous cycle. So none of us are immune to it, for sure.
So it's better to be a lot more supportive emotionally, mentally.
Right.
My father-in-law used to have a wonderful expression, may he rest in peace. I'm in pretty good shape considering the shape I'm in.
Right.
So,
yeah. Right.
But I mean, even to laugh at yourself once in a while, that's important, right?
Sure,
Learn
yes.
to love yourself, laugh at yourself.
Yeah,
right?
That's right, yes.
Okay, now how about treatments that are available to help people on the road to recovery?
Well, I think it starts with perhaps going to your family doctor, nurses, dietitians. We do have 2 major treatment centers in Alberta. So there's one in Calgary and there's one in Edmonton. Aside from that, there's counselors. So getting yourself a team, I think, is really important. A team of professionals.
And again, surrounding yourself with people who love you and believe in you for really who you are.
Right. Who can be supportive and non-judgmental, and not try to push you before you're ready. I think that's really important as well.
Oh, okay, so how do you know when you're ready? Is it like a smoker that says, you know what, I've had enough. I want to finally go out and get help with my smoking because I can't beat this on my own. You almost hit like a rock bottom. So is somebody with an eating disorder say, you know what, I have to hit rock bottom before I admit that I have a problem?
It's causing you more problems than it's helping you. I think when you see that, you're probably ready to make a change. And then getting help to make those changes is great. It's really helpful, yeah.
How successful are the treatment programs that are available at some of these centers in Calgary and Edmonton?
Yeah. Well, it's possible to recover from an eating disorder, but it's important to remember that it is very hard work. It requires a lot of patience because it's a very complicated illness. So it is possible. It's just you have to have people around you that are willing to be patient, and those treatment centers do really, really help to give you the information and skill that you need to recover.
Those people who are suffering from an eating disorder, do they have an accountability partner, and does that help?
I'm not sure. I think probably the most helpful we can be for people is letting them know that we're there for them, that we are not judging, that we're willing to be their sounding board if they need that, but we're supportive. And we're not going to push or give advice or quick answers, because that just gets people stuck, really.
And it puts up maybe the walls, they
Puts
get
up a
really
wall.
defensive.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you something. You and I are working together, and I'll notice a change in your eating pattern, which may lead me to believe that you may have a disorder with your eating. So how would I best approach you if I care about you as my coworker to say, hey, Janet, something's not right here? What advice would you give me?
You know, I think it's probably better to zero in on, you know, you don't seem to have as much energy as you did before. You look a little paler, and when I see that, I feel worried. Rather than focus on it, I don't see you eating or you're losing weight. So we don't want to ever focus on food or body shape or weight, because that can lead us to more problems.
How about the spiritual side of things as well, Janet? Do people say, you know what, God really loves you for who you are, you know, and God doesn't make mistakes. So does that ever brought into the picture as well, the spiritual side? Instead of just the mental health, but also the spiritual side?
I think the spiritual side can be definitely affected, just like it can socially, emotionally, and physically. That definitely needs to be addressed if that's something that's important to that person.
Because not everyone's the same, and not everyone
That's right.
is struggling with these issues because of the same reason. We can't hit everyone with the same
No.
stroke, right?
No, that's right.
Okay. How about different cultures? Do you see higher tendencies of eating disorders, maybe here in North America, as opposed to, I don't know, other countries around the world?
You know, I'd have to look into that, but I know that Europe has a very high incidence of eating disorders as well. The United States, for sure. I don't know, but it would be very
So it's really
interesting
Western civilization, right? A lot of the Western countries.
Yes. I would say so, but I'm not sure about that.
Janet Innes, mental health therapist with Alberta Health Services here in Lethbridge. Thanks so much for joining me today on BCN.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and have a great night.